Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to do kind of a setup for the Yak 3, Eramin's Yak 3 that is, the Legend of Victory event that we just had. And to be honest, it's probably the most forgettable event in War Thunder's history. With this new event system, it's actually really positive, because you can pick and choose which events that you want to do, instead of having stuff like crafting events where you have to cram in a bunch of time over like a 2-week period and only get half of the rewards. Now you can get every reward, and also you don't have to do or play all the time if you don't want to. And I know a lot of people who during Eramin's Yak 3 event decided to take a little bit of time off. And it isn't a surprise. The Yak 3 itself is pretty boring, right? You have quite a few Yak 3s in the game, and the only difference between this one is it has one less machine gun. The camouflage that it has access to is really nice, and the decals that you get are really cool too, and the gramophone, the travel gramophone decoration, actually makes some sound, which is pretty awesome.
In battaglia! Prepararsi! Carrista pronto! Artigliere pronto! Caricatore pronto!
But if we generally talk about the event, it's a pretty easy event to do, and also, at the same time, just one which is just completely forgettable, because of the prize itself, and also the timing that it came out. One of the things that was talked about by a lot of people was the fact that this amount of mission score was exactly the same as the PLZ event, even though the PLZ was a rank 5, and this one is obviously a bit lower. But the difference is the Yak 3 is a premium, so therefore you get a little bit more out of it at rank 3, instead of the PLZ, which doesn't have a lineup or anything else around it. The PLZ was actually selling, at least the last time I saw it, for about 15 Gaijin coins, and I expect something like this Yak 3 to go even lower, because it's easy to actually grind out these things in a realistic, and also surprisingly well in a sim, especially if you decide the PvE stuff is for you, and everybody around you also does. The other thing that we haven't had access to is the new event. I thought that they were going to announce it on Friday, but we're here on Monday, and there's no sign of it. So Eramin's also leaves a weird mark there. We're in a bit of a doldrums when it comes to War Thunder in terms of kind of what's going on. There hasn't really been a lot of messages, or there hasn't really been a lot of, oh, just wait, here comes the stuff. There's been a few little things here and there in terms of what's, going to be coming on social media, talking about working on dev blogs and things like that. But I've got to be honest, the last few weeks of War Thunder have been pretty dull. The battle passes, the battle pass challenges aren't really that bad. The pages of history have been a little bit wonky in some of them, such as the one that's going on right now is a bit wonky to do unless you play British Naval. And for the Legend of Victory event, it was also kind of dull too. The positives out of it, though, at least for me, is I was able to get a decent chunk into the Hungarian tech tree. I was able to get myself some really cool stuff. The IL-10 I got spaded, the TU-2, the IL-28, and also the MiG-15 BIS and the Yak-9P, and also the MiG-17 PF. Plus, ended up finishing the G91Y as well on top of it, since for some reason I wasn't able to research the MiG-21 MF by the time I finished the MiG-17 PF, which wasn't great, but you know how it is. At the end of the day, it was quite fun to play some of the Italian and also Hungarian vehicles, and experience the matchmaking around 9.0 again to see what it's like. And right now, it's a lot nicer than it was before, which is a huge thing compared to what's there. Now, the other part of this event, which obviously was kind of all over the place, was, as I said, the score. There was a lot of people who weren't happy with the score for this event at 35,000 mission score. But since that is the lower end of what they said that they were going to do for these events, I don't know what else they could have done. Maybe they could have dropped the amount. Maybe they could have made it a little bit cheaper compared to the other events. But I still honestly thought that 35k was really not too bad in these types of missions. For me, while I was grinding out the Hungarians, it was taking me about 2 hours to be able to get the 35k score, and that was with, you know, some pretty bog standard vehicles which were in the game. So I know there was a lot of people who weren't happy with the fact that it would take so long, but let's be honest, it's not really going to be something that is going to blow people away. The other part as well that should be mentioned on the news article, it does say that you can purchase the good old tasks until the 23rd of May. So don't be surprised if we hear something tomorrow about a new event, or maybe the next day with the new events probably starting. And maybe this is a time where they're going to do a recoup. When we have a look at the events that they've had this year, memorable ones, I mean, you've got the 292 which came out and the Jaguar IS. I thought both of those were pretty solid. Would have rather had a lower tier vehicle for the Jaguar IS, but the 292 is pretty fun. Then you have, of course, the Baden, which is completely forgettable since it's just the same as two other machines that are already in the game. Then you have the PLZ 83 130, which is awesome. You know, I really like it as an event vehicle. Just wish it had a lineup like that. That's the main thing. And then this Yak 3, which is definitely the dullest out of them. But if you think about the old event system and how it may have worked, this vehicle would have either been in a crafting event as that lower tier vehicle that you can get access to, or it would have been in a summer or winter event where you would grind past it while getting the other vehicles in it. So it's basically a gimme vehicle anyway, in terms of like where you would actually find it in the other event systems. And having an event like this means that people can actively take some time off if they want to, or don't have to focus on the events and can focus on other stuff when it comes to War Thunder, and I think that's really cool. Right now, with the event over though, it really is a time to see what's kind of going to go on. Like, we are in, as I said, a bit of a doldrums right now. Not a ton of information about the next stage, but it looks like we're going to have an explosion of stuff. And it might be worth it, you know, to happen pretty soon. Because at least when it comes to the people that I chat to, there's a lot of them who, you know, over the last little period haven't really been doing too much in War Thunder. This has kind of been one of those down periods, and usually this down period leads to negativity from people and focusing on things in the game which they want fixed. I don't really understand a lot of the things that people want fixed. I feel like sometimes it just becomes a miasma where people just throw out stuff to be fixed because they're bored or because they don't like what current state of the game that they see. But with the fact that we know so much about the next update already, it wouldn't really be a surprise if, you know, Gaijin were working hand in tool to try and, you know, get that stuff sorted, especially that new BR system, which will be really cool to see. So right now, it's pretty boring in War Thunder. The last event was pretty dull, there wasn't really a ton going on for it, and also, at the same time, there is only really the Battle Pass stuff to focus on, and even then we're on the Adamant Challenge, which is just getting shot a bunch of times. So hopefully, over this week we get some news, but right now, I think it's fair to say the last event was incredibly boring. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Tullio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pieman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Alan Hacker, Ozzy Panzer, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Cam Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.